Here you go. Another show. But much more. Welcome to Beyond the Veil, an unusual podcast. I'm your co-host and your host. With my co-host and the host, we got the most. I am Flying Spear, also known as Jay Drews, aka Jay Drizzy, amongst others. And this is Son of the Sun, the Black Sun, Shaman, also known as Manu F. Right? Did I say that right? Okay. Indeed.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Welcome to another edition, y'all. This is a freestyle episode with a focus. With a focus, you know. We're talking about the estates again. It was about this time last year when we went in on the estates, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Anniversary. What's going on, brother?
Yeah. Man, all is well, and I'm it's almost time for that warmth to start kicking in. I got my seeds in the ground for my herbs, my medicine, my fruits, my vegetables, and that is the exciting news for a shaman. You know, shamans be extra excited when it comes to farming or anything of the healing pathology sort. So that's the exciting thing going on right now.
Absolute facts.
Mm-mm.
Absolute facts, man. All right. Well, what we getting into today, man? I told him a little bit. What else is on your mind that we're gonna probably delve into?
Have you seen those DNA spirals, the 3D DNA spirals that they built yet?
The ones they recently built? No, I have not.
Okay, so they have mapped out the DNA spirals for the different strands of DNA. So if you map them out, they come in that spiral. If you look at the spiral from the top view of the spiral, it makes different geometrical shapes. You know what I mean? So you'll look at it. It might be 5 circles with one circle in the middle at the top of the DNA design, right? So
Yeah.
in light of us talking about the reincarnated estates and building on them, the cathedral windows, when you buy side by side the DNA structures that they've just spiraled out and built, and you put it up to these cathedral windows, they're the same geometrical shapes. And then and they're different in different geographical locations. So if you got different genetic types or represented in different locations, and then you have these different cathedrals with these windows that have genetic resonant coding in them. It would be interesting to note or to find out if these Catholics and even the Vatican and everything like that even belong to them. The structures that they're in belong to them to begin with. Did they actually construct them, or are they something that they moved into? Because if they're something that they moved into, they may be a part of someone's reincarnated estate with the stained glass windows to match their resonant frequency, which would be a beautiful thing.
Give me just.
So, and then it's not just cathedrals. I just say cathedrals because those are the most noticeable. You know what I mean? And it's many other buildings as well with these corresponding designs. I see you got the native in the back there.
Indeed. Technical difficulty here.
Man. And then we did last time go in on the reincarnated aspect too of the last year. We went into the fact that a lot of these estates were built on over lifetimes, and how stars and superstars, Tahuti in his Emerald Tablets of Thoth says that we are stars trapped in bodies. And it's interesting to note that stars and superstars are called stars and superstars. And they're often applied handlers, they're given wealth, they're given houses, as long as they can be watched and observed. And then the power that they yield, as far as to the masses, their creative capabilities, they're all utilized to push specific agendas and things like that for sacred organizations, for record label organizations, for record label company owners and things like that. They have different agendas that they utilize these star power to push. And then if they wake up, if they do a Kanye West wake up, or they do a Dave Chappelle wake up, or for lack of better terminology, when I say wake up, I mean coming into consciousness. When they come into consciousness, they oftentimes try to drug them or replace them. Wendy Williams. So, it's just interesting.
You went quite far, quite far from the storyline from whence we started. However, um, wow. So you went there. Thought we would gradually build up. So, what if those were not the important estates? What if they were distractionary and strictly connected to a false sense of prestige for distraction's sake?
Then it would be an excellent method of distraction. It would be an excellent method of distraction.
Indeed. I agree. So, interestingly enough, the most important estates, would you say, are the ones that are connected to spiritual pathology and the influence that it holds in people's everyday life?
Indeed, and locations of power as well, like the different those two.
Okay. But give me an example. Well, you know what? I'm gonna give an example. I'm gonna tie something back in when you started. Cathedrals.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one thing I noticed. I didn't get this out of a book. I didn't get this from a teacher, or a lecture. But the word cathode. If we could take a look at that for just a second.
Nodal point.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's just take a look. What's a cathode? A cathode here. I'll share my screen briefly. So, the cathode. Negatively charged electrode by which electrons enter an electrical device. The positively charged electrode of an electrical device, such as a primary cell, that supplies current.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at something interesting. I don't want to go off assumptions, so let's see. Apologize for anyone who could hear music bleeding through that. Give me a second. All right. So let's see the etymon. Sorry about that brief silence. Hmm. Katoros. Kata. Hodos. A way, path, track, road. A word of uncertain origin. See Exodus. Why would we see Exodus if you're uncertain of its origin?
Right, 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 right.
Quit playing with us,
Oh,
okay?
I don't know where it's at. Look over there. Look over there.
Right. Anode. Anodos, way upward. From ano, upward. From ana, up. Hodos, away. Hmm. Electrode.
Hmm.
Electro, hodos. Way, path. All this deals with a path, a way. A route of travel, if you will. Way down.
Mm-hmm. Nodal point.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, ah. Church of a bishop. Kata,
Hmm.
down. Hmm. Very interesting. So, church of a bishop, phrase cathedral church, principal church of a diocese. A phrase partially translating late Latin, ecclesia, cathedralis, church of a bishop, seat. Oh, from a specific early Christian use of classical Latin cathedra, a teacher or professor's chair. Commonly an easy chair, principally used by ladies. Also, metonymically, as in cathedrae, moles. Luxurious women from Greek cathedra, chair, seat, bench, also exalted seat, occupied by men of eminent rank or influence. I'm headed somewhere. From kata, down, hedra, seat, base, chair, face of a geometric solid. The Greek word was used in
Hmm.
Old Testament and New Testament translations. Let's go down a little further and see if they up, up, up. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to enter this one again manually. Oh, that's okay. We'll go to the modern definition then. We'll just leave that there again. So here's a point in why I'm doing this, and you probably, as an audience, are very quick learners. You'll probably see exactly what I'm doing with this. Maybe I spelled this wrong, so let me try it. Might be spelling this wrong. Sorry, you guys. Let's see.
Oh, I can see where you're going, though. I definitely can see where you're going.
Do you see where I'm going?
Yes, yes.
It's crazy how they try to give you a person's name, right? These names. Anyhow, there's a word, cathidsos. I'll find it for you all before too long. Won't maybe not be in this episode, but I will. But it deals with an absolute seat of authority, unquestionable authority. It is the seat by which the Pope is viewed to have his standing displayed. Um, so we can see that a cathedral is the church of a bishop. So it's within a circle, and then you have, as you mentioned, nodal points or electrodes that pull power up and other power down, all
That
simultaneously.
is indeed. And then, just in support of that, a lot of those structures have been noted to have energetic value potential because of their geometrical design and because of they had on top of the building they had the electrical catching systems, and then they also had things that were suspected to hold mercury and also have an energetic value in a lot of the early buildings. And then, interestingly enough, a lot of them also had bells, which is a resonant frequency and has energetic capability. A bell does. So
Mm-hmm.
were they harnessing? Is that what you're getting at? They're harnessing energy in these buildings.
Harvesting.
Mm.
The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. Many are called, but few chosen. The office of a bishop must be held by someone who is the husband of one wife. There are a specific set of ecclesiastical rules that are based on these scientific understandings, is what I'm pointing out. And so only a bishop would have a cathedral because they oversee the ecclesia. We sit together in heavenly places in Christ Jesus.
Now, if that's what a bishop is, then when these Catholic priests or bishops, are they married? Are they married? I thought that they were sworn to celibacy. The only girls I see those bishops around are the young ones that they oversee within the the nuns and the very young nuns coming in. That's where the bishops reside. They live in the cottages. I didn't know they had wives.
Right.
Mm.
Interestingly enough, when you talk about locations, oftentimes there's an arch in these locations or several arches. And one of the terms for an arch is mullignan. So there's a mullignan, which is associated with a racial pejorative, referring to a dark skinned or swarthy person found in the Italian language, formerly Latin. And then there is a mullignan, which is an arched window that represents an eye. And it is a part of cathedral architecture, Gothic cathedral architecture at that. So let's take a look. Let's see here.
You reminded me of something while you're finding that. You reminded me of something when you said that. There is specified genetic architecture. For instance, the Manuelian architecture, there was a king line and they were Manuelian. They were Manuelian, however that's spelled. But you can look up Manuelian architecture, and it would be interesting to discover if their architecture corresponds to their genome. Because we were talking about earlier the potential for those cathedrals to have the genetics in the windows. But now I'm wondering, are they the only ones who are operating on that, or were there more cultures operating on that science, that level of operation? But I do know that the Manuelian architecture is a specific geometrical design that stands them out from the rest.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, there, from what you've expressed to me, there is a history of those with that name having the occupation or trade of being a builder or a designer builder, or as we
Mm-hmm.
call it, an architect.
Mm-hmm. Arc, arc, architect. The arc,
Yeah,
electrical arc. Mm.
yeah, yeah. So I'm spelling this incorrectly, apparently. So having a little difficulty finding that terminology to find. Bear with me. But you can go right on ahead as you were speaking on a different architecture.
No. So I mean, I'm just thinking about the architectural design that they had at one point, and then you have shields. You have family shields, and these and coats. What are coats of honor is what they call them when they make their family shield. Crest, crest.
Crest, family crest. Yeah. Now see, now that's in Europa. That's a European fact.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. So I'm wondering, were those you have the geometrical designs that pre-exist their reign, and you have the buildings that they inhabit that pre-exist their reign that have these electrical qualities that they don't know how to use. But after they entered into those places, they hung up, instead of it being in the walls, written in the walls, and the geometrical design and the architect, they put it on a flag and held up a flag and told everybody to, direct their attention towards that particular symbology as opposed to the pre-existing symbology and energetic value system that was already there.
Hmm.
Which,
Absolutely. It's like St. Louis. You have Cahokia. The Cahokia they call mounds. You had an entire citadel with multiple Cahokia, and then there was a, a high point in which the double arches were placed right across from the largest remaining Cahokia in St. Louis, or St. Louis, as some people call it, in the land of Missouri. So you have a patriarch and you have the matriarch. And of course, constant reference to the arch is archangel, right? Ark of the Covenant. All these references to arch, but these things were
yeah.
brought into circulatory circulatory discussion by the Moors. Let's not mince any words.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Latin and Greek
And
languages were influenced by the Moors and their architecture. We just brought up the arched windows called mullignans, So then why would they use a term similar to that to describe those men and women? And they use the eggplant reference. So you have Mulian, which is the eggplant, and then you have Mulingyan, the arched window that looks like an eye, you know, sideways technically.
You know, and in light of this, I was just reminiscing. A lot of these cathedrals in these stained glass window representations, they include lineages, whether it be the lineage of Christ, whether it be the lineage of a pope lineage. They include depictions of lineages around these windows as well. And it would be interesting to note how long ago they were replaced, if they were ever replaced. You know what I mean? Because that again has the potential in light of the reincarnated estate. If those windows were replaced, you know, then that would suggest that there may have been pictures in the window before, or family line or tribal representations in the window before that may have had relevance to the family line, the estate, and who actually it belongs to. But they still do it now. They put Pope lineages. They put might be Saint Paul and his lineage and all of that into the window, into the arches.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly there would be different light codes that would be entering into place. And depending on where someone was to stand, especially if they had the sacred knowledge of where they should stand and where they should have others positioned, there would be a different light code impartation into each individual. Some would receive the same, some would receive something different, right? But these are all different examples. I'm just trying to find the reference. Let's see. Check that out.
That is, and man, I wish I had a picture of the genetic map outs that they've just done. It looks exactly, I mean, exactly like that, exactly like that. And the different shapes, the different geometrical shapes, they have different windows, and I literally was going through them, you know, on a search mission to see if this is something or not. And I mean, I'm talking about exact matches to DNA strands, exact matches. And then it even went further than that. It got into exact matches for DNA and then resonant frequency also. When you were using making different sounds that correspond to the pipes that they have in these cathedrals, that correspond to the music layouts that they orchestrate in these cathedrals, they have a sound resonance that also has these geometrical designs that we see in the window, correspondences to them as well. So you got light codes in the windows, and you got frequency unlocks being achieved by people who know that the architectural design and the frequency produces electricity, or produces vibrational awareness or dimensional awareness, depending on how they utilize that science. You know, the light coding, the window coding, the geometrical design, the frequency releases, depending on how they do all of that, is the intended effect would be to either, what you say, bring the energy up or pull other energy down.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna have to find my original source, but yeah, the Mulignan with a G, ironically, changes the entire context and meaning And I don't know that one term came from the other, or when one's use was more popularized, or may have had an influence on the other. However, it seems as though the irony in both terms is that they're referring to a person of a certain hue. And when you deal with the light spectrum, even though I don't believe people are crayons and that most people are not or even aware of the light spectrum when they're speaking of color as associated with race or humanity, we're talking about the darker brother, the darker sister. We're talking about the melanated, indigenous, original appearing. We're dealing with the darkness that moved upon the face of the deep and then said, be light, and it was light. So, how did the darkness speak? What was that darkness? What is that text even telling you? Most pastors don't want you to know, even if they don't understand themselves. They'll say they want to know. But if you give them that definition or explanation, a lot of them will say, what does that have to do with anything? Well, if you
Well,
don't
then you
know,
would say creative linguistics, creative universal linguistics. If they were the first people here, and the darkness was speaking, and they were the first ones at any landmass that you go to. I don't care if you go to Europe. I don't care if you come here to America. I don't care if you go to China. I don't care where you go. They were the dark-hued people there to begin with. So when using creative linguistics, when using they spoke what they mathematically figured out, what they scientifically figured out, what they vibrationally figured out, what they architecturally figured out, what they learned from the earth. All of those things are the basis and foundation for everything that we have. Every single thing, every single thing. Math, like I said, math, architecture, religion, clothing design, furniture design. You was talking about them chairs, and I just want to briefly touch on a chair that I saw. It's a chair with Isis. It got the wings on the back. It got the lion things on the side. It got the two lion handles on the side, and it's all gold. And it had a base that it would sit on in the pyramid, a base that was connected to the granite beneath. And I just thought it was interesting that they don't let people sit in that seat. They keep it in museum. It wouldn't hurt the seat. It's metal. It's gold. You know what I mean? It wouldn't hurt the seat, even if they covered the seat and they allow people to sit on it. But they don't allow anybody to sit on it except royalty and certain stars. I think Alicia Keys was allotted the ability to sit on it, and she was also allotted the ability to climb to the top of the pyramid. When she climbed to the top of the pyramid, she said she felt an energy like she never felt before. She felt like she was connected to everything, and she felt like her questions were being answered that she had when she was up there. And she said she just broke out crying when she arrived at the top of the pyramid. Y'all should check her testimony of that out. That's pretty interesting. But again, this is to say the energy that is available at those locations, our original people may have been utilizing in their functioning. Why do I say may? They were utilizing it in their function, in their designs, and in everything like that. And it wasn't until it switched hands with these new Catholicism, in whichever way it came over there, usually put an end to that power being accessible to the natives. It made clergy the recipient of those energetic value systems.
so what are you saying?
That they may have replaced them and harnessed
Why?
their energy
Why?
so that they can be powerful, that they can be the most powerful people on the planet.
What's the point of
If
that?
you don't make the power readily available to everyone, then you disempower, disenfranchise, downtrodden, um, um, whoever you remove from a grid system or an empowerment system. And I think that that's what they were doing. They put us in square houses, and the square houses don't have three sides. The point just comes to the top. So a lot of our energy is, like you said, taken in, down, or dispersed straight out into nothing at this point because of architectural design. So a lot of just the energy in architectural design that comes from materials that are conductive is not necessarily available to us like it was when we use those type of conductive and superconductive materials in what now houses, what do you call them, the top bloodlines.
Well, clearly this is all coincidence, and I mean the only reason that they married into our ancestors' families was because of love.
Oh, their love for grapes, right? Their love for grapes.
Absolutely, it was all
Yeah.
surely just coincidence. Just like all of the architects used to have a particular bloodline ancestry connection, and they clearly didn't even understand, being that they were crude and underdeveloped in their frontal lobes. They could not have possibly understood that these shapes could help them harness and channel and direct energy for various purposes, including healing. They had no clue.
Yeah.
They
You know,
needed these Johnny come lately young boys to come and show them that what they were doing actually had more power than what they ever thought. Of course, I'm being facetious, audience. Terrence, of course, is like he is looking at me like, yeah, okay, but I mean, you add some people who are specifically paid to only focus on certain areas of science that will develop what we now
yeah.
call technology, and as that advances, you have cameras, software, lighting, the use of that lighting, along with other things, and you create images that people think they see one thing, but they're seeing something else, and they might get excited and happy about what they thought they saw, but it's locking down other parts of their psyche that was meant to be freely open for them to live,
Now,
right?
now this gets us back into something that we discussed in our melanin episode. Melanin content, uromelanin, neuromelanin, and the third type of melanin, which I can't remember the name of at this moment. But these levels of melanin,
melanin is the third.
Okay, these three types of melanin determine a person's color. Okay, I am using the heck out of these, right? Color. Okay, they determines a person's color, but energy transference capabilities is what melanin provides. So if you take a people and you have a cathedral, theoretically speaking, a cathedral that has their genetic information and their light coding specific to them to empower and enrich them who are in that area, who are in that place and have developed there and tribe there and been tribes for longer than Columbus got lost here. You know what I mean? Though you got those individuals who are being intercharged with that and being empowered by that. If you move them and you move them from their location, you change the windows, you change the light patterns, you put clergy between them and the actual altars, which alternate energy, altars. You take them off of the altar and you put clergy up on the altar.
Why?
To disempower, to become kings.
How does that do any of that? How does it do any of that? And what is hue?
Um,
Hue
the,
melanin? What is hue melanin, neuromelanin, and subdural melanin? What do they have to do with any of this?
well, they are able to transconfigure light and DNA coding so that it can be utilized in your biomechanism, or they make solar energy and other forms of energy utilizable by your body. That's how the power, that's where the power in a light coating in a window with the sun shining through it, having a genetic resonance with you, would then empower the coding within yourself. Or if you're releasing a certain level of energy because you're at a point of power and you can tap into a certain place, if they enter you into that transitional state or trans state, they can utilize the information that they acquire from that state as well, which would make them more powerful. So when you have your altar boys, or when you have your clergymen, and they're interviewing and having you tell all of the things that you've done wrong and all of the things on your heart, they're empowering themselves and enriching themselves even still. And then when you get to the lesser version of it, is just somebody standing on stage sucking up all of the energy from people thinking about them and repeating the things that they say.
Interesting. I don't know if I buy that, but it sounds good. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, so as this pertains to the estates, are you suggesting that they're utilizing this spooky, hooky understanding? Just kidding. Now, are you suggesting that they are using this mastery of explained spiritual sciences and everything from geographical shapes and containers to fluid condensation, light bending, and frequency code warfare to maintain control over estates that once only responded to our ancestors?
Yes, and still only respond to our ancestors, and partially respond to these people who they Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, who they marry into bloodlines with.
I mean, what's so special about Kanye's bloodline? I mean, he's
Um,
talented, he's brilliant and everything,
yeah,
but
he's talented.
well, who is
I
his
don't
people?
even know.
Is he?
I don't know. I would have to suggest that people looked into that. I don't know who his people are.
I don't either. I know his mom's name was Donda West. hmm but never really looked into that because people told me he was crazy, and I didn't believe them, but I also didn't look to disprove them. So that's just been the narrative. You know what I mean? I think we should do a
You
show on.
know, yeah, we should. Prince wrote "Slave" on his cheek, and they thought he was crazy.
He
Michael
was.
Jackson said that he couldn't drink the water. He told Dick Gregory he couldn't drink the water because they were trying to poison him. And Martin ran out in the middle of the street with a gun, saying, "They're trying to kill me! They're trying to kill me!" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Dave
when
Chappelle woke
people
up
come in,
wrapped in his towel on his bathroom floor after a shower in a discussion with two men in bow ties.
Oh, well. Steve Coakley woke up in a hospital. He was told that he had been transferred, and this was his third transfer when he woke up. And the last thing that he remembered was watching TV in his living room, which was interesting to know. But all of these people, when they wake up, when they come into awareness, usually the crazy smear campaign is almost guaranteed to follow. When they do one of two things, they expose their leaders, or they expose themselves and their identity and what they know, what they've been through.
Well, one thing for sure, they already know who we all are. Certain organizations can tell everything that stands before you based upon your natal chart. So be careful who y'all give those things to. All right. Interestingly enough, man, I was entertaining a thought, just a thought. Like the Earth
Keep the
is
car. Hurry.
the Earth is a projection. The sky is a reflection. The coordinates to almost any place can be found by someone's natal chart or astral chart. Uh-oh. There you go.
I'm still with you. I'm sorry, I had to step out.
Not a problem. So the estates, a lot of these locations, they placed cathodes over top of them in order to control the flow of energy up and down.
Yeah. And it's interesting to note that they all had orphanages. All of these Catholic
oh jeez. Oh geez.
All of these Catholic had orphanages, and they had native children. So
you mean indigenous children?
Yes, and their parents were, still unclear on what happened to them. But most every Catholic, establishment had an orphanage associated with them.
Yeah, right in their parishes and their wards, which is what they call a person that is under the custody and wardship of the state, which state is short for estate. So I mean, what you're saying is tantamount to the explanation for everything, because if you just change one letter and you keep most of the same frequency resonance of not just the words but the understanding, you by definition own the patent on that thing because you've altered it in some way. So patents have more so to do with alteration more so than they do origination.
That goes.
Your audio went. What? Let's see. So okay, you're muted. There you go.
Okay. What I was saying is that goes for land patents as well. So if Cecil Rhodes blows up a waterfall, and it becomes a muddy waterfall, and the water line is redirected, then Cecil Rhodes then has rights to land that he never had rights to and wasn't his to begin with because he altered the land.
Right. So he played God. Because the routing of a river starts out with a god, right? I mean, even in the Sumerian tablets, there were a group of gods that were lesser than the sky gods that still were gods, but only in comparison to us initially, because their understanding and their strength and size, they were rerouting land and changing the scape of it. We call it landscaping now. They were creating hanging gardens and irrigation systems under the ground that we would call streams, rivers, and lakes. And I mean, then they established such an order on the surface that even after wind erosion, massive rains, floods, mudslides, windstorms of various sorts, it would simply bring it down to another layer of something else that was similar already underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
It would even give the illusion of there being an elapsement of time.
Very true.
So interesting. So then they actually started making buildings on top of structures like Cahokia and mountains. But I mean, a mountain is just a building that's made of stone in the sense, and they usually have a cave system somewhere within or underneath or both. And the more that the rest of the terra firma is withered away or weathered away, right? It would make the mountain seem taller, and I don't know. I'm not.
Interestingly enough, you deal with underground cities, and you deal with underground stuff of all types.
Right.
But interestingly enough, if you want to go directly to a natural holy place, not the ones built on top, you want to go to a natural holy place, you have to go to ground and beneath ground level in order to tap into the veins, the metal veins of the planet, in order to tap into the stone, which some stone itself, like granite, marble, they have electrical charges. Many different crystalline
sandstone
have piezoelectric quality. Sandstone, yep, sandstone. They all have piezoelectric qualities. So if you want to get to the real holy place, you got to go down in the ground.
That makes
even
sense.
to the extent that when you deal in the cathodes, okay,
right,
they are said this is speculative theory. They are said to have temples up underground, not to the same God that's presented on the surface.
Now, why would they do something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with that kind of understanding of things, why even worship a god? Period. Why build him a house? That's right. Because whoever is conducting the service is in control of the energy, and therefore their god. I got you. Okay. Or God's representative, or God's priest or spokesperson, his prophet. I get it.
And they end up doing extremely well, Jay. It blows my mind. They end up doing extremely well. They get the congregation to repeat after them. You know, they get some hymnals, and they relate some scriptures to themselves. They be like, you know, I am the man or the woman of this house, and I need y'all to be behind me 110%. I need you to be with me. Are you with me? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, would a man rob God? You say, wherein have I robbed God? In tithes and in offering. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse. Well, you're not running a warehouse like it's spoken of. What you're doing is trapping energy for yourself and your family's benefit. And then you're playing God in the sense that you even decide whom you will or will not hold healing services for. I mean, wow, at least the doctor's office is open, 9 to 5 every day, and you get what you get. You already know what you're in for. But anyway, I don't want to
I mean,
condemn anybody. I just want people to think
they
freely.
don't even want to ring the bell, Jay. They don't even want to ring the bell no more. They don't even want you to come in, get up under that bell. Everybody's in a room that's geometrically shaped in a way that's gonna cause a resonant healing frequency, and they place the bell up at the top. They don't even want to ring it no more. They rather melt that mug down than heal them people like that. Oh.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I mean, and a lot of times they had missions, right? Rescue mission, bring in your displaced, bring in your famished, your hungry, right? Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, you are absolutely correct.
And then they tell you this is a hospital for sick people. How come no one ever gets well? Just like the regular hospital. Interestingly enough. And I mean, and then in the regular hospital is inspired by the church hospital or mission. And, I mean, and when you study the history of that, and then you see Knights Hospitallers, you see the infiltration in reverse of the Masonic order by the Catholics, who banned membership, those who had membership in the Masonic order, from also being a part of the clergy or even laity of the Catholic Church. So, who's really in charge? Who is controlling the estate? Or are we seeing a passing of the buck constantly so that
Wait a
never
minute, probably
heirs?
now we had great mothers.
What?
We had great mothers, and we had the councils of chiefs, but we had great mothers. So now I look at the clergy, and lo and behold, the male bishops backing the mother church.
Are we talking about the mother's board? They wear the big hats
Yeah.
with the feathers in them, and they tell the pastor
Yes.
what he can and can't preach, and they go
Yes.
and ask the board for a new pastor when they don't like what the pastor is preaching about.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. Yep.
they got
Mm-hmm. And
power.
then
Wait,
when they don't
Are
know
you
their
telling
authority,
me? Are you telling me that some of them own the title and deed to the property upon which that church is built?
factually, yes, they do.
I
Yes,
mean,
they
I've
do.
experienced that, but I thought that was just my personal life. But the more I started to study history, I realized that a lot of the African Methodist Episcopal churches were built on Indian land because it
Oh,
was the only place where they could go to escape the former plantation bosses and bishops, which means overseer once again, a plantation bishop, not a church bishop, going to make sure they're not riling up the other Negroes and coloreds. Notice the difference: the Negroes and coloreds and blacks. Now, eventually, it was three variations, but we all just ran together, right? So it's not to cause any division why I'm bringing this up, but I do want y'all to understand that there was a delineation at one point in time, and it was still all love and it was still all respect. It was just about representing your culture and running with those who respected your culture, would participate, co-participate, or correlate with your culture, and believe that you had a right to continue to practice whatever it was your culture was, irrespective of the beliefs and laws that might have governed outside areas beyond that particular land parcel. So the burial of those African
That,
former slaves, the
that
spiritual
part.
rights, all of that was being protected by their relatives, right? The American Indian, also known as the later known as the of the Negro, formerly known once again as indigenous or original people to the land. So all the
Or
original
Niji, right? Niji,
Niji,
right?
yeah, that's what. Thanks, shout out to Dane Calloway and Tanisha Calloway. But yeah, they brought that term, back into understanding and into use for us. And absolutely. So it wasn't about separation. It wasn't about division, but there was an understanding of where one thing ended and another thing started or picked up. And so, yeah, that those lands where those churches were built were protected because they belonged to the great mothers. So
Now
when the
let me add
Negroes,
on. Let me
colors, and so-called black folks was in church together, it didn't look like when John Paul and Pierre Montreal, and no offense, even the dark skinned Pierres and Jean Claude's and Wyclef Jean's and whatever. I mean, it was just different. Okay, a little different. The hand clap and the foot stomp was a little different. The instruments that was allowed and put into use were different slightly. The compositions and the arrangements were different, but because there was something else going on. I mean, when you had the storefront or the wooden, how would we describe this? The wooden church house. That's not the cathedral or the chapel. Okay,
no.
so that was a different sound, and that was completely organic. The people was the crystal. The stained glass was the skin of the people. Uh, the nodal points were the lymph nodes and the vocal cords, uh, and the call and response of the hooping and yeah, that was a
Okay. But
totally different thing.
they wanna make a mockery of it when we do it, but when they call it Kabbalah, they wanna give it the highest honor.
I mean, they stole that anyway. Ka ba Allah. I mean, you stole
Yeah.
from comedic text and transliterations, and then you stole from your Arabic brothers who have the same patriarch as you, Abraham or Abram. Uh, and it's okay. I mean, we borrow, we steal. It happens, right? But you can't
I
turn
have to add,
around and use sacred principles, right, to confound even the wise, but let's use a better word, to beguile even the wise in order to
right.
take their estate, right?
I want to add on about them Episcopalian, African Episcopalian, because specifically African Episcopalian, but we can go Episcopalian, Baptist, blah blah blah. But I really want to touch on them African Episcopalian churches off in them country towns all over the world. It's always some way back African Episcopalian church that's been there that got a graveyard next to it that's 100, 200 years old with a schoolhouse next to it.
And a
This
cemetery.
little piece of it, and the cemetery. Now, just to deal with the cemetery thing and in relation to reincarnated estate, when I bury my relative on our land, it can never be sold again. It can never be taxed again. It enters into a different
Holy
it
ground.
can't be right. It's holy ground. They can't tax it. They can't do nothing. They can't sell it from up under you. They can't
Now,
do none of that no more.
it's a cemetery now.
So
Right.
now the African Episcopalian Church will provide you a burial, Niji, but not Niji, the way they say it now. You know what I'm saying? We'll provide you with a place to bury yourself, your people, right here with all the other colored people, and even the high level ones, the ones who fought in the military and who really did great things for our country. We'll bury all of you, Niji, right here for free.
But you're going down as an African and a Methodist and an Episcopalian in protest
And you
to the
ain't
reform.
claiming no land.
That's correct. Except the land in which
Ain't no land. Ain't no land. You ain't burying you can't go outside on the land and see your granddaddy, your great granddaddy, your great great granddaddy, your great great granddaddy on no land no more. Now you got to go to the Episcopalian Church of African Episcopalian Church, and then if you want to be clergy in that church, you got to be part of an organization. But I'm gonna leave that alone. But
I gotta offer the name correct. African Methodist Episcopalian.
yes. Yes.
AME Zion Church.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. And then I mean, take notice though. Don't just listen to me. Look around in these little country towns. Look around. It's always the in them AME Zion, it's always the district attorney who's the pastor, or a predominant lawyer amongst the community is right there leading the church.
Yes. For a man that doesn't work shouldn't eat. I'm sorry, I'm in character, y'all. But yes, you have to have a job. You have to have a career. Pastor is your profession. You profess your faith in Christ. Therefore, I went to law school to have the understanding, the finer points of God's law, and also to be able to take all of your estates when you die. So I'm close to all of the widows.
That part.
To every family before to make the preparations before God calls them home. Praise God, amen. Praise God. But yes, and that's not to indict the AME. By the way, I'm just a little facetious and silly at the same time. But they're not the only organization that has people that can foot that bill and who might understand better what's really going on than the others. And I'm not condemning them once again. There's been some great men and women who have come forth in generations past.
I mean, and some great Eastern stars and travelers too. That's they.
See there, my brother. There you go. We don't need to point out the obvious, right? I mean, when you see that 6-pointed star on a ring on your deacon's row, when you go around for the offering plate and give everything you have, you should already understand. All right, membership has its privileges. Now, you are privileged enough to be a member of a church like that, and if you want to drive a Cadillac like his, just holler at him about that ring. But just remember, a man cannot not serve two masters. And everybody is not coming to church for the same reason. Amen. It's just like the person that says, I come to the bar to try to get laid. And there's the person that says, the only reason I came to this bar is to find somebody who I can get laid with. Another person say, I don't even drink anymore. What am I doing here? Another person said, well, I just like to have a beer when I smoke. And I like to smoke when I have a beer. So I just came to have a beer. Know what I'm saying?
Man, I've not named this church, and I hope to goodness when they catch this episode right here. This man told me he had a word of God. He had a word of the Lord for me, and he said that if I didn't change my ways, then the Lord would surely smite me within 2 years. Okay,
By
so
the Lord.
so at the end of it, I made sure not to change anything because God had not said anything to me. So I made sure for 2 years to be the exact same me. I made sure to continue doing everything that I did in that order for 2 years. I'm like, if I'm gonna be out, I'm gonna be out. And he was right. If I'm not, I'm wrong. I went back to that man, Jay, and you will not believe the response that I got. I said to him, I said, you're a false prophet and you lied. And you're lying to your congregation and you're stealing money. He said to me, I have friends in the FBI and I will call the FBI on you, sir.
And did you tell him you had friends in the Freedmen's Bureau and you'd call except for Kamala Harris gave away all the damn money that was sitting there? Oh, I'm sorry. Different show. Different show. Uh,
Different show.
but,
Different show.
I just don't understand why people are still talking about reparations when they just saw them given away in 2021. So, and then they blame somebody with orange hair for just crazy things. I just don't understand. But yeah, back to the subject.
Bro, Barack Obama went into Libya with he didn't ask y'all nothing. He ain't asked y'all nothing. He ain't say why I'm go. And then when the U.S. citizen turned around and asked that man, why did you send planes to go bomb Libya? This president responded, I don't have to answer that question. I'll answer it when it's time.
So it's interesting that same man was responsible for bombing not one, not two, but five.
Uh-oh, your sound dropped.
How about now? My back?
There you go. There you go. You back. You back.
My back. All right, excellent. So yeah, five indigenous African nations with drone strikes by the first
Oh,
Kenyan American president, as if there will be another Kenyan American president ever again. If we ever see that, y'all, please make sure that that doesn't happen as long as there's a fair and free election, that we never have another Kenyan president. Thank you.
I got a question, Jay. When Saddam lost his life, who was president?
Oh,
Uh-oh,
Mr.
you
Obama.
dropped out again. Oh, Mr. Obama. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I think we should be a
Yeah,
little more concerned.
but remember, the orders were given by Hillary Rodham Clinton. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
You remember when they went to
Yeah.
Morocco and he and Michelle walked out under the Moroccan flag through a red door, but Mrs. Clinton had to sit at this desk underneath a U.S. flag.
Big deal that they made out.
Okay, I think
I do remember.
you remember that. Does that sound familiar? Oh, now you're muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Listen, you bringing that information up, I had to light up my Indian tobacco real quick. That just was
Yeah, you remember that? Just like the reason, there was a speech that was given. Sorry, I'm hearing a reverb or a repeat of myself in one of our devices, but it's okay.
I don't hear it on my end. I don't think that the audience will hear it. I don't hear it on my end.
Okay. Well, yeah, he gave a speech in 2011 in Cairo, Egypt. And then on that same day, I believe he signed the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act back into law. It had been unsigned, expired and unsigned for 12 years. So for one Clinton and two Bushes, it went unsigned. He signs it, and then all these people start talking about what's your nationality, right? And then we realize that there's always been in Article 15, it states you have a right to declare one. And it's almost like it's stating that, like, it's not just a right, but it's an imperative suggestion that you are highly expected at some point in time or another. And he states within his speech, I'm skipping around a little bit. He states within his speech that that's the next important thing for the future of Americans. Now, mind you,
I'll give you a term to look up.
Was challenged, right?
Yes.
If you were going to run the largest corporation in the world, wouldn't you need to have an authenticated birth document of some sort? Wouldn't you have to file a financial statement and be recognized by the Uniform Commercial Code internationally? But if you were a bar registered member, like an attorney or something, like, wouldn't that keep you from being able to hold that office without certain documents filed? I'm just asking questions because I don't know because I'm still trying to learn something.
That's if they're elected, not selected. You know what I mean? That's
what's the cathode again? Let's go back to that. No, I won't do that to the audience. If you want to flash back to it, it deals with electrical. It's saying something very close. Put it that way. You know what? I'm gonna just say it's telling you how things are selected, pulled up, or pulled down, using that electromagnetic force that is in everything living and is stored in places that have been built to do so. So the keys to your estate are connected to these just not just locations, but they're connected to these structures and the designers of these structures, not the builders, because they just did labor and they got hopefully a wage for a day's work every time they went to work on it. But those who were hiring them and the ones who they hired to design these structures, there's something within that information that would, as some people say, you follow the money. Yeah, well, you also follow the chain of hiring. DC was built by Charles L'Enfant up until a certain point. Then it was finished by Ben Banneker. I'm sorry, his name is Benjamin Banneker. That was born here and was son of the chief of the Lenape tribe. But I mean,
you don't even want to get into if the mounds are older than the pyramids, and the pyramids here are older than the ones around the world.
But shaman, they're confused how their narrative changed to that truth because they said that he didn't travel to Kemet. He didn't travel to Egypt. He didn't travel over there to
Say,
Greece. But he
you
finished.
talking about Issa? You talking
I'm
about
talking.
Issa?
I'm talking about Banneker.
Oh, okay. I thought you was talking about Issa.
How did he finish L'Enfant's construction without the blueprint? Because L'Enfant took him with his drunk ass back to France, trying to be ugly, and gave TJ, Mr. Jefferson, the middle finger, and then he'd say, "Oh, call in the Negro builder." Well, Negro builder? You mean the Indian builder? Call in the Lenape man.
Or you mean the Grand Architect?
I mean, that might be a bit much for them right now, but the guy that finished DC, the
No, I mean
district,
a Grand Architect, like a good architect. You know, a good architect, the best, the best.
like a god of building. I'm sorry, but yeah, so yeah, the guy that built the other clock that wasn't in the church, but they give credit to Franklin, somebody Franklin. They try to give him credit for discovering electricity, but I mean Tesla already proved later that Egypt, Sumer, everybody had a little light under the sun, under the sun. I'm sorry. So yeah, man. How did he finish L'Enfant's plans? And he had never been to Egypt, and I mean, he had his own drawings of things that he allegedly never saw before because they weren't already here. They had to be across the water. What are you doing?
You know, I heard that those younger brothers that came over here and did colonizing, I heard that they changed the directions on the map to confuse us. You know, they did the Trail of Tears, they did the misplacement of all of the indigenous people. Well, I heard that when they did that, they changed the north to the south and the east to the west. So when we looking at a map and we looking to discover geographical location or direction, then we are automatically going the wrong way if we look at a map. Automatically.
Before we had the second malfunction of equipment or so, I was saying, no, it wasn't a malfunction. Sorry, someone was one of the little ones. I think was talking to you, but I said so. The Earth is a projection, and the sky is a reflection, possibly. So, if you wanted to find the coordinates of something, you wouldn't look at a person's reflection. You would look up. I mean, at their projection, you would look up at their reflection, and you would see the juxtaposition of those illuminated points. Even if you were mapping
Aurora
their
Borealis. Oh, sorry.
even if you were
Yeah.
mapping their physical body like they have done already now, or their brain, like you would be looking up, look up like, oh, I see down there, and that's where that is, and that's where that is. So, if there was a wall, for example, like blocking off several other planes of conscious energy expression, I mean, if you could look at a mirror that had a reflection of the other side of the wall, you would still see in real time what's there. Now, some of it would probably be confusing. For example, if you were to discover like a portion within that place that time went backwards, I mean, what would that look like in a mirror? I mean, and then we can't forget that our eyes have lenses and refractory capability.
I was going to get into color. I was going to get into color. Spectral exposure. You know what I mean? If you have a different spectral exposure, then your bandwidth perception is going to be different. So if you're further away from the sun, then you're going to have a different experience than someone who is closer to the sun.
Absolutely. But yeah, so I mean, with the stars, all the stars look closer. Tonight may be the night that your dreams will let you know that all the stars look closer. All the stars look closer. All the stars look closer. I said that a few different ways if you caught that.
Mm-hmm.
So all the stars look closer.
And then the one thing that they cannot do, we talked about reincarnated estates. We talked about the fact that your genetic resonance will activate the estate. Beyond that, what activates you is power. They took you from that coastal line. They took you from the piezoelectric qualities that the shorelines produced for your energetic system so that you can remain disempowered. And they gave you dense material to judge yourself by instead of actual energetic value. The real value is in you. And for you to be powerful, all you got to do is take in as much energy as you can to amplify your power. And then once you're powerful, do not re-loop yourself into all of these systems that are already set up. Create something new and better. And I know that you're capable, old and better. And I know that you're capable because the blood transference information within you houses the schematics, the designs, the mathematical equations, all of the information necessary for you to operate in a value system that is energetic based and not material based. So get back to yourself, get back to your power, even if you misplaced and you're not where you're supposed to be. Get your energy up and you'll be able to hear your place calling you back home. But that's the Black Sun Shaman taking the veil off and talking to y'all for a second. You know what I mean? Because that's what this reincarnated thing is about. A state thing is about.
In agreement. Be who you are. Focus on who you are, not what you can become. Focus on who you are, not what you can become. Your ancestors did not come here, experience life, death, tragedy, love, joy, pain, hurt, overcoming of obstacles, defeating challenges for you to become something you already are. Yeah, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. Those of you who popped in and popped out, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate you. We would like to grow with you. If you would like to appear on the show for a segment, talk with us in person, hit us up, contact us at JDrizzy. I'm going to put that up for you. At JDrizzy3692. That is the channel for deeper dives, dialogues, unlimited, and Beyond the Veil, the podcast you're watching now. An unusual podcast, myself and or T. Manuel, a.k.a. the Black Sun Shaman, Ra, Manu Ray L, all the different ways that you say the resonance and frequency of who he is, once again, should remind you to seek out who you are, not what you can become. There's a lot of what's out there.
Yeah.
We're looking for who's. We're in need of who's desperately, so that we can let them know and remind them that we know who we are, and we'll be glad to go ahead and assume control of our own estates again, so that we can be the righteous stewards that we were made to be.
And if they're watching, the people who took the estates, then know that this is better anyway, because you don't know what you're doing with the estate no way. I can see by the way you run your sciences. I can see by the way you do your mathematics. I can see by the way you build your buildings. You don't know what you're doing. So just let the rulers rule.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And appreciate you, bro. Until the next week, hopefully, or maybe in the next few days, we'll see how things pan out. But we will be coming at you more regularly. We appreciate the support we do have. Once again, like, share, subscribe, join our locals. Deeper Dives Unlimited or Deeper Dives Dialogue UNL. That's our Rumble platform. Join our locals, man. Donate. Help us generate a higher budget so we can bring you higher quality content. We can have better presentations of the information that we would like to stick with you. And for future discussions, like I said, contact us in our inbox, youtube.com/@JT3692. Thanks for joining us again. Peace, y'all. Peace.